I'm going to hand over to Dave, who's going to give us a bit of an overview of everything we've heard today, and then I will let you all go. So, Dave.
Thanks, Iona. I'm talking to you today from Boonwurrung country in Victoria's far south coast, which is a long way from Glasgow, but the commonalities in this conversation have been really clear. We're coming to the end of the session, and I suppose it's important to reflect on what's been shared and to look forward to future operations to share stories and struggles in solidarity. I wanted to start off by thanking the organisers and the panellists. There's lots of detail, lots of insights, plenty to think on. Wanted to thank CND Glasgow for organising this event, important and timely. And I also wanted to thank those who are on this call or on this Zoom who conveyed contest and urgency and alternatives at COP26 recently. Iona started us off earlier with talking about greenwashing and clean washing. And COP26 saw a very strong pro-nuclear presence. And, you know, the World Nuclear Association has subsequently outlined, sorry, I'm just getting a fair chunk of feedback through the phone, so that's good, thanks. The World Nuclear Association has subsequently outlined plans to push ahead and really ramp up this promotion at the next COP in Egypt next year. And we really need to contest. One of the key things I think we really need to do is contest the clean dimension that the marketers have saying about nuclear. Yep, you can argue that it's low carbon. You cannot, you absolutely cannot argue that it's clean. When you look at intergenerational waste, when you look at routine emissions, when you look at non-routine emissions like Fukushima direct disposal, direct dumping into the Pacific, when you look at the direct links with military nuclear industry and the existential threat that that poses, this is not a clean industry. So for options for engagement into 2022, there's many. In the nuclear power space, I think one of the things that's come through is that it's not a credible climate response. You know, nuclear has said years ago it was energy too cheap to meter. That's not the case. Then it was energy independence when there was concerns about Middle Eastern oil. We're past that. Now it's nuclear is a climate response. It's not. We need to contest the SMR illusion, whether it's simply more radiation or so much rhetoric. We need to contest it, and we need to contest this promise of next generation nuclear technology. There was a very interesting comment by the UN Special Rapporteur on climate change at COP, who said that countries that put their faith in non-proven or non-existent technology as their approach to addressing climate change are grossly irresponsible. We can't be grossly irresponsible. Like, nuclear is a dangerous distraction to effective climate action. And we need to convey to our colleagues and comrades in the climate movement and to the many people, the growing numbers that are concerned about climate action, that nuclear is not just unhelpful, it's worse than useless. It is an active impediment to meaningful and effective action. We need to prepare for the Egyptian COP, where there will be, like Gillian said, an increasing presence and volume. In the mining front and the mining discussion today, I think Gillian in particular really brought that home, that we have historical, we have current, and we have continuing impacts. And I think one thing that we would really welcome from Australia, and we think that we probably have some experience and expertise, and we'd welcome the lift internationally, is more actively embedding concerns about the front end of the global nuclear chain into the wider discussions, because there are profound cultural, environmental, and human rights impacts with the first shovel. And sometimes countries that have established commercial power systems. The conversation is more about how do we manage reactor safety and how do we manage radioactive waste. And they're completely legitimate, important, complicated conversations. But that material does not arrive at a port in Rotterdam or Hamburg or wherever it is in the UK neutral. It is not neutral. It has already caused harm. It has already contaminated country. It has already disempowered and disenfranchised people. So I think braiding that into some of our work is a story that needs to be told. In relation to the weapons issues for the year ahead, we've got the MPT review conference in January, an opportunity again to highlight the need for action. We've got perhaps more significant and an opportunity for more positive action, March 22 to 23rd, 24, the first meeting of state parties of the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons in Vienna. The AUKUS deal, like Jim said, is a real concern in Australia because it is changing the way policymakers, legislators, commentators talk about nuclear. And as Scotland is part of the UK, we have a natural synergy there. You host the UK's nuclear subs. We've already had the HMS Astute come and port out of HMAS Stirling, a naval base in Fremantle on Australia's west coast already, since our Prime Minister made the surprise AUKUS announcement. There's talk of maybe purchasing or hiring or leasing UK or US subs to fill the capacity gap in the Australian plan. There's probably some really useful dialogue we could have with you, Australia could have with Scotland, because you've hosted these things, you do host these things. You're also aware of the nuance and the complicated discussions about economic activity. I think there's about 8,000 people engaged at Faslane. Like, that's a serious local economy hit. And we've got some people talking about jobs and dollars aspect of this rather than security and value aspect of this. So maybe some of your reflections and learnings and experience could be really helpful for us. Certainly there's a real role for increased exchange and cooperation around AUKUS. The 40 years anniversary of the Faslane camp and the 50th anniversary of the British nuclear tests are significant opportunities too, to highlight both the impacts of those things, but the celebration of that resistance, or that reservoir of resistance, as Daniel put it. And some of those key connecting themes too. I think one of the overarching themes of this whole discussion, whether it's about power, weapons, mining, has been about respect. It's been about respect for what's been in the past, what we've inherited. It's about respect for the present, and it's about respect for the future. And I think one of the things that underpins resistance to this industry is a profound sense of respect, past, present, and future. The significance also and the power of story and solidarity has been really strong for me today. Like, I think often that we're like a coral reef. Our struggles are built on what went before us, and we do stand on the shoulders of giants. And ICANN's a really good example of that. ICANN looks like an overnight success, but it's not. It's an overnight success for 7 decades of people saying no to this industry. It was a crystallizing point, but it stood on what was already built. So the importance of knowing that we're not alone, the importance of not losing hope or faith, or as Ian said, the importance of not being demoralized, because the greatest way we can give away our power is to think we don't have any. The greatest way we can give away our influence is to think we don't have any. We need to manufacture enthusiasm, confidence, and keep that happening. And there are real reasons for hope. Like, we do this work because we want to promote what we value and to resist what we oppose. And there really are clear reasons for hope. In Australia, we are containing or constraining the uranium sector. We've got 40% of the world's uranium, the single largest resource of this product, the primary fuel for weapons, the primary fuel for reactors, and we've got 40% of it in this country. We were meant, according to industry reports at the start of this decade, we were meant, sorry, not the start of this decade, the start of this century, 21 years ago, we were meant to have 25 new uranium mines in this country now. 25, we have 2. Now that's partly because of the market, partly because of community and social license. It's a big part because of indigenous resistance. You put those braids together, it makes a strong rope. From 25 to 2 is a big difference. In Scotland, you've kept nuclear weapons on the radar when the institutional powers in Parliament and press don't want it on the radar. You've kept it on the radar and you have built the support of the SNP, the Greens, the Socialists, the Independents, and a swag of the community. Like, they are considerable achievements. Look at the growth of renewables. It has absolutely, renewables have outclassed by every measure, reliability, performance, deployability, cost efficiency. Renewables have blitzed nuclear. The world has changed. If you look at the treaty on the prohibition of nuclear weapons, that is our best tool to get rid of our worst weapons. Like, we've got good things to go on with, and we've got good people to go on with it. So I suppose just to finish up, Iona, from my perspective, and to dip the hat a bit to Scotland, today, 1795, for the history lesson, 1795, on this day, Thomas Carlyle was born, Scottish historian and writer, and Carlyle said, "This world, after all our science and sciences, is still a miracle. Wonderful, inscrutable, magical, and more. Wonderful, inscrutable, magical, and more." And it still is. It still is. And that's why we get up. That's why we pull on the boots. That's why we promote the positive and try and reject the negative, and we keep going. And I think this has been a really one more important step and affirmation and sharing in that work that we need to do. So thanks very much to Iona, to you, and to C&D for making it happen. And thanks for the invitation. And particularly thanks to everyone who's been engaged and involved for the work that you're doing in your individual spheres. And collectively, we are making a massive difference in a planet that is wonderful, inscrutable, magical, and more.